listening to the Mark Bradford Alchemy for Life podcast.
Welcome to my house, my world. Hey there. I'd like to welcome the potential millions of people currently being forced to join my world. Welcome to my world. Now you're working at home, which means you have to figure out how to apply yourself without anybody looking over your shoulder. You now have to be self-directed. And you have to find this self-discipline also knowing that there's a refrigerator 12 feet from you at all times. If you have a pet or kids, you have to set boundaries for them both for you to focus. It's really easy to decide you just want to get up and pet the cat or play with the kids or get distracted. You also have to adjust to the fact that you may be very seriously working while you're in your pajamas. You have to understand that you might get into a very productive mode and realize it's almost noon and you haven't showered. That's okay. It's also okay if the way that you start your day is to get up very, very early, get a shower, get all ready to go, and then plop yourself down in front of your desk. If that's the way you need to start your day, that works as well. You now have to adjust to much less human interaction than you're used to. And because of this, you'll feel a sense of being disconnected and isolated. So, you'll want to use emails and phone calls and other social media to directly connect with other people. Do not use social media to broadcast things to the world because that's mostly a one-way communication. Yelling into the void doesn't help anything. But instead, you can still use social media to directly connect, DMs, things like that. Instagram also has direct connection, all that good stuff. Hey, it's lunchtime. When it's lunchtime, you'll probably be eating leftovers, or you'll be cooking for yourself. And you may find that some of your lunch hour is actually taken up with cooking versus ordering. You may actually enjoy that. Or you'll run out and get pickup, or in some cases, delivery. I typically can't ever get myself to get delivery. I don't think I've ever done that for lunch, actually. I've done that for dinner a couple times and then felt really lazy about it. While you're eating your lunch, if you are not one of the lucky ones who've had kids to be forced home or your spouse is home and you're actually alone, find yourself something to watch, typically on YouTube or perhaps one of your channels that you like, when it comes like Netflix and so forth, and catch up on one of your shows. You may start to really appreciate the reward system that you're giving yourself of, hey, it's time for lunch, I'll eat my lunch, and I get to watch my fun show, and you can turn your brain off from work and then turn it back on again. This may be a stark comparison to what you might have been doing at work, which is horrible if you're doing this, which is to eat at your desk. You need to give your brain a break. You definitely need that. If you're one of the people who says, well, I don't really have a lot of things to watch, and I have a show I binged watched, but that's it, I'm kind of between shows. There are a ton of things to find out, to watch on YouTube. There are a ton of things that are positive. So stay away from the talking head news shows which tell you about the same doom and gloom over and over and over again. Because remember, when horrible things happen, that's when they make sales. So instead, find something positive or funny or reviews. If your gym is closed or you don't have a gym membership, find a local park to take a walk. And even though it's warming up now, sort of, for some of us it's still pretty cold out and it may actually snow here and there, you're just going to have to ignore that and just bundle up and go for a walk in a park and hopefully get some vitamin D through the sunlight. For me, I found it very useful to go for a walk very early in the morning. And while I'm walking, I tell Siri to set things on my schedule. And the things I set on my schedule are not the set events, but rather it's more of a to-do list. I put them at arbitrary times, and when I get back to my desk, they're on my calendar. And as I do them, I grab them and I move them to the time I did them. So in other words, I may say, well, there's a break at 3. At 3 o'clock, I need to make this phone call and take care of this thing. I might encounter that break at 9:30 and just do it then. Then I drag it to 9:30, which is actually really useful not only for seeing that you did things, it's a much more fun to-do list to interact with instead of a check mark, but it's also kind of a historical thing. So you can look back on it and go, wow, I got a lot of stuff done before noon. I didn't realize that. Or I got a lot of stuff done after lunch. I'm kind of energized. And that can be a helpful metric for you. You may end up with more than one walk. For me, I've had a number of days where I've had 2 or 3 walks. Although when the gym was open, and in my area, my gym is still open, I would go to the gym and then I'd still walk, which could be exhausting, but I found that was a very good way for me to work through plot elements with fiction writing. Get ready to talk to yourself a lot more than you used to. And understand also that if you do this for any extended period of time, it's going to be a hard habit to break when there are people around. There are just some things you have to talk out. So in your current job, you may not have had this luxury because there's someone next to you in a cubicle or what have you. But if you're in your office alone, you are free to do this all you want. Now, where did I put that? How is this going to work now? Now, hold on. You're free to do that because no one's going, dude, are you talking to me? What? Shush. You will find specifically that if you don't have others in your household, it makes it a much more pleasant and less echoey environment if you're talking about stuff. Seriously. It's a great coping mechanism. Get ready to assign yourself specific boundaries for working. If you have a physical office, that boundary can be your doorway, even if it's not closed, but you also need to assign yourself time. And I understand in some jobs that's a difficult thing, but if you actually physically left your office and for the most part were done working, then you need to do the same thing at home. You need to set a time boundary. And I understand a lot of us have phones we keep with us all the time, and you may end up reading a work email that you thought was something else. Even if you can't help yourself to respond to it, don't send it. One of the biggest red flags I see for me is if somebody sends me an email at 11 o'clock at night. It tells me a couple things. It tells me they're more stressed than I am. They're less organized than I am. Because if someone's working that much, they're going to burn themselves out and make a lot of mistakes. So my trust level actually goes down. I'm not impressed by someone who writes to me at midnight. In fact, I think, dude, get a life, or what's wrong with you, or are you going through something, or why couldn't you have answered this at 4 p.m.? Are you that disorganized? Maybe I should talk to someone else about this. So think about that. It has the opposite effect. It also trains your coworkers, boss, and clients to say, dude, tomorrow I have a certain amount of time that I need for my family. So now that you have all this extra time where people aren't walking up to your desk and telling you what they ate or what they did on Saturday, you may find that you focus more and you actually have more time to do other things. You may find that you have brain cells that say, hey, I'm kind of bored. And if that's the case, first of all, you should listen to my Congratulations, You're Bored podcast to explain all the details of what's really going on there. And secondly, you may end up having a creative outlet, which you should have. And if you get this creative outlet, you may find that it fills up the time that you thought was going to drive you crazy, and it makes you happier. So you may actually come through this being happier and finding a new creative outlet. And finally, let me address the issue directly. And you notice I haven't used the C word the entire time, or the V word, and I'm not going to, because you've heard that a million times. You don't need it to be reinforced. So the reason that you're home right now, and the reason you're listening to this, do get the facts. And you may say, well, we're pretty late in the game to not have the facts, Mark, but a lot of people don't actually have the facts. So read up on the facts and then leave it alone. So get the good, solid, basic facts of what's going on, and that's it. Understand supply and demand in human psyche. Understand that the economy is a very emotionally driven thing. And understand that if you scroll through Twitter or somewhere and there's hundreds of photos of shelves that are empty, it's going to cause you to panic and run out and want to buy things that you don't need. And then when everyone does this, and everything's in short supply, they say, see, everything's in short supply. But understand that right now, there's no reason for you to need to eat more than you normally do. There's no reason for you to do the opposite, which makes me wonder why you bought all that toilet paper. Speaking of toilet paper and hand sanitizer, understand that hand sanitizer is for those rare moments that there's no bathroom nearby. And as humans, when we build anything, we put a bathroom in it, which contains soap and water. So if you're a mover and a shaker and you're not homebound, you may need hand sanitizer here and there, even though most stores and places now also have hand sanitizer. So if you're home hoarding hundreds of rolls of toilet paper, there's no need for you to have hand sanitizer. It's completely useless to you. Nothing has affected production. Nothing has affected supply chain of textiles or products or food or anything. We are not in a vegetable shortage. We are not in a fruit shortage. We're not in a meat shortage. We have no cattle issues. Production and supply is exactly where it was 2 months ago and 3 months ago and a year ago. We still have this wonderful, overly capitalistic system driven by money and driven by the need to be better than the competitor and so forth. It's a wonderful system to make sure you have all the stuff that you can afford. But if you run out and you buy 3 months of stuff that you normally would take you 3 months to buy, of course, it's going to cause a supply shortage. But the next day, the stuff's going to be back there. And in 3 months from now, or more, when things blow over, you're going to wonder why you bought all that stuff and it went bad. And that's not going to be cool, because throwing away food is not great. So, in closing, and I wasn't going to do this podcast, but I figured I better. And I just wanted to welcome you to my world. All this stuff will eventually come to pass, as everything does. You'll find that perception is everything. The world hasn't run out of things. Human ingenuity, perseverance, and kindness will prevail. Hang in there, and I hope this was useful. And if you do have extra time on your hands, feel free to listen to the tons of podcasts that I also have. And thank you. Hey, it's me again. Thanks for listening. 2 things for you. If you like this, I'd really love that you rate it on iTunes or Spotify. Would love to have the stars that are appropriate, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. And the other thing is, I do have a new book out, and I would love for you to take a peek at it. It's called The Sword and the Sunflower. It's on Amazon as a Kindle as well as a paperback. Thanks. Just a little blurb at the end here. Take care.